I've been asked to make comment on a few of the works it didn't place, which I'm happy to do. In fact, it would be worthy commenting on all of them, but I can't do that. So let's look at Yesteryear's Listening Room. This was by Edward Tepper, and it's the only piece in the show that's a photograph. The composition is well designed, and it has the effect of pulling you into the room. And the lighting and the manipulation of the photograph itself is such that it looks a lot like a painting. And of course, on close inspection, it is revealing itself to be a photograph. But all in all, a nice piece. The only watercolor in the piece that's realistic is Sandra Nye-Moran's bridge piece, and I found this to be an impressive watercolor piece, very well done watercolor in the mastery of the medium, and a portrayal of the bridge. It's a piece I'd like to look at in my home. As far as the transformation of concept, I didn't get a feeling from it other than being impressed with the workmanship, craftsmanship of the painting, and but it certainly is worth mentioning the piece. Butterfly Palm is a drawing by Billie Raines. I believe it's pastel, and this is a very happy piece to look at. It's geometric, and it's a kind of a close-up study and interpretation of a palm. The color fades a bit, but I like the activity of the interaction, and I like the way the black at the bottom, where the elements intersect, is larger. That black space that zigzags vertically up gets smaller and smaller as it goes up, which leads your eye around the piece. And all in all, it's a piece worthy of mention. Just a couple remarks about this painting. I saw Denali. The presentation of this, as far as the realism, it's approaching wanting to be realistic, and that falls back a little bit in terms of painterliness for me. And the clouds are kind of have a rough nature to the clouds. They don't look like white, fluffy, or puffy, or they don't look realistic, I guess is the way to say it. But what's attractive to me about this, and it really did want to be acknowledged a couple of times, is the nature of the presentation, because the clouds are going at an angle slightly off of horizontal, which clouds don't do, and yet the mountain is sitting at horizontal. So it's a juxtaposition of these elements that I find intriguing, that bring me into the painting, and for that reason make it a strong work. Fruit Salad by Mike Haubenstock is a design piece. It's muscular in size and design in that it's very descriptive of fruit cut in half and arranged in kind of almost a wallpaper, but a bold presentation. And well executed. Very happy piece, very upbeat. Reflection is a piece by Steve Ferretti, one of two pieces in the show. I chose to speak about reflection a little bit. His work is leans towards abstract expression with a geometric kind of structure, both of his pieces, but this one in particular. And it flattens out a lot, and for that reason I didn't place it. It lost my attention in that way, but there's a danger, I think, in abstract expressionism of knowing when enough has been emoted into the canvas or too much, and so it's a difficult subject, and but I did feel like this one may have been just right. However, the structure is such that it didn't hold my attention as much as the other work.
Go.
I'd like to talk about a few individual pieces. This is Serenity, and initially I was attracted to this piece, a frame within a frame, but I felt like the snow and the light off the snow was particularly
conducive to more thinking about what was being portrayed here. I personally didn't like the title, or it didn't fit to me as much as just, it was just so much more of a dream quality to me. But and then later on, I tried to ignore who did what. I did ignore the artists, and then I discovered that Susan did another piece that I liked, which was Mountain Stream, and so I had to choose between one or the other, and Mountain Stream won out.
That's good.
Another piece I'd like to draw attention to is Shenandoah Valley. The size of the piece is impressive, and cloud paintings are almost ubiquitous in terms of getting to see a lot of cloud paintings. But this one's handled very deftly, and it's almost, if you cut out just the clouds, you would have this attractive, abstract, expressionist type of painting. And the presentation and the anchorage of the landscape foils it well, and of course puts it in more of a poetic presentation. But a very handsome painting. Cascade. I just see this as a really muscular painting. I feel like this one is held back a little bit. I started to make assumptions about it, and one of the assumptions was that it's probably done from a photograph, which can be limiting in the sense of trying to, it's a double-edged sword. One side is you want to get the water to look like water, and it does. Some very strong interpretation that comes across with a lot of realism, but at the same time, it kind of, the photograph no doubt clouded up here, and it might have been, I think it would, a direction to go with this would be to invent some a personal interpretation, perhaps. The fact that it inspired me to think that, it makes it part of what's in a powerful drawing that is draws attention to it. I'd like to talk a little bit about Mr. Green's home, and I find this to just be a delightful little painting. The subject is kind of a shoe-in. You know, you do a painting of a house and who lived there and how long and what other families. But Mr. Green's home just feels like it's a personal story, but well turned, and one that just stuck in my head in terms of the elements that are presented, and how nicely it was done. So this one is The Bridge, and just a beautiful watercolor. It's tough doing architectural rendition in any medium, and this is a nice job of putting that together, as well as how in terms of composition, and as well as the lights and darks, and a well done piece. Just a word about this painting called Together, and kind of a memory piece, most likely done from a photograph. But what I like about this particularly is a treatment of the foliage and how it blends in with this figure's hair and clothing. And it really comes out of, it looks like it's coming out of a memory, which is the purpose of the piece. And then below that is lilacs. And boy, talk about a tough subject, is picking flowers in a vase. But similarly done, like what I call a memory piece, something that is being pulled out of a private memory, but it fills the canvas well, and nice treatment of the color and execution. Just a word about Party Lights in Maymont. It's an attractive little piece, difficult to execute a night scene and have it read well, and it does that. And this kept jumping back into needing to be awarded, but it got bumped out by others because there are a lot of excellent pieces in the show. But this is attractive to me personally, and I think I would enjoy looking at it on a daily basis, which is a personal way to look at pieces. And sometimes you make a piece of art because you want to sell it, and other times you make it because it satisfies a story you want to tell. And I think that this one probably hits both of those a little bit. It probably would sell well. This is the only work in the show that is untitled, and yet it has some graphics on it, or I should say copy on it, a little note that says "Hold," which immediately keys into the fact that this isn't a rhino in life, it's a rhino in death. And so you can see that it has a mounting bracket, and it's a trophy, or it's a representation of a trophy. And I glossed over this piece initially because it seemed more like a graphic than a painting, but I think it's attempting a political statement, or it is a message to me in terms of it being ahead in a field of black and red, which is kind of a battleground colors, and so there's a lot of strength in that piece. This is another piece in the show that came in and out of needing an award. I wanted to give it an award, and then something else would edge it out. But there's a message here given by the title "Fragile Sea," and the mark of man, perhaps, or fairly intrusive elements into the painted surface with these lines placed on top of the picture of the story. But I liked the message, and I liked the sky and the sea and the reflective nature of the presentation. All in all, an intriguing piece.
Acrylic on camera? No, it's called Reflection.
This piece called Reflection is a worthy piece to look at in that the layering of the paint is, I found myself falling into. It is in that sense a structural piece, a lot like a very thin sculpture, which is kind of how I look at paintings in general. The mathematical elements of the piece, dividing up the more organic forms, is what makes it work for me. And I also like the way that he's framed it as part of the painting. Just a couple remarks about this painting. I saw Denali. The presentation of this, as far as the realism, it's approaching wanting to be realistic, that falls back a little bit in terms of painterliness for me. And the clouds are kind of have a rough nature to the clouds. They don't look like white, fluffy, or puffy, or they don't look realistic, I guess is the way to say it. But what's attractive to me about this, and it really did want to be acknowledged a couple of times, is the nature of the presentation, because the clouds are going at an angle slightly off of horizontal, which clouds don't do, and yet the mountain is sitting at horizontal. So it's a juxtaposition of these elements that I find intriguing, that bring me into the painting, and for that reason make it a strong work.
In looking at Edgar Woodie's painting, Mr. Green's Home, I am reminded to say that always art is communicating something, an emotion or a story, in the presentation of marks or a mark, an event in history, or a portrait. And this little painting is, as I see it, a portrait of Mr. Green's house, and in that sense, a memory that that evokes a placid, a happy, serene kind of time in the existence of this house, and probably in memory for the author, the artist. It's a nicely done piece. The composition of the piece is compelling for me in that this did stick in my memory every time I looked at the show, and mostly because I like it, and as far as a transformation of concept, I think its power is in the personal story that it tells. And with that, I want to say that all the works in general showed strong vision and a worthiness to be painted, and that is the point. That is why you commit to a canvas or to the materials and the paint, and you don't worry about the cost of the individual tube as you're using it, or you try not to, and make it do what you want it to do. It's a pleasure and an honor to look at this work, and I hope you can get in and look at them in person, because it makes all the difference to experience it in the same space.